The night sky crackled with energy as Robert Reynolds hovered above a sprawling cityscape. Lightning arced across the clouds, and below him the streets lay silent in awe and fear. In his grip, the void writhed and lashed out a shifting shadow of pure malice. With a roar that shook the heavens, Reynolds unleashed a blazing beacon of golden light. In a single, desperate act, he hurled the darkness into the infinite cosmos. For a moment, the world held its breath as hero and villain fought within one man. Then, as the light faded and rain began to fall, Reynolds plummeted from the sky toward the concrete below. The screen cuts to black on his falling silhouette, a final, heart-stopping image that leaves his fate unknown. Centuries earlier, this near-mythical struggle began in humble fashion. Robert "Bob" Reynolds was not born a king. He was a young man driven by curiosity and a hint of desperation. In the 1940s, he broke into a clandestine lab known as Project Sentry, hunting for illicit substances. Instead, he found the Golden Sentry Serum, a secret formula engineered to be hundreds of times stronger than the super soldier serum that made Captain America. Just a single dose of this unstable serum pushed Robert's very molecules slightly out of sync with reality, awakening vast powers within him. Overnight, he gained genius-level intellect and Hulk-like strength, a speed that could rival light, and strange abilities to manipulate matter itself. In effect, the serum made him one of the strongest beings in the universe. In those early days, the Sentry was a true Golden Guardian. He emerged as a heroic figure at dawn of the Marvel Age, meeting the likes of Mr. Fantastic, the Hulk, and even the X-Men during his adventures. He married Lindy Lee, a woman who became his anchor in an extraordinary life, and he even recruited a faithful sidekick named Billy Scout Turner. Together they built a sky-high watchtower to keep vigilant guard over Manhattan's skyline. Newspapers gushed about his exploits. Children pretended to fly like him. For a time, it seemed Robert Reynolds had been granted the perfect life, power, purpose, and a loving family. But lurking beneath that golden visage was something far darker. Unbeknownst to most of the world, the serum that made him a champion also released a cosmic horror, the Void. This malevolent alter ego was essentially the flip side of his psyche, a monstrous shadow with insatiable hunger and godlike powers of destruction. In one terrifying incident, the Void attacked New York City with apocalyptic force, leaving scores dead in its wake. As the city burned, Sentry realized with horror that the monster he battled was not an outside enemy at all, but the living embodiment of his own darkest self. To save the world and his own family, the Sentry took the ultimate step. Working with Reed Richards and Dr. Strange, he performed an incredible cosmic reset. He wiped his own memory and erased all evidence of his existence. In doing so, he also banished the Void from reality, at least for a time. The history books were rewritten. In an instant, it was as if the Sentry had never been. Lindy and Billy grew older without ever knowing the man they loved had once been a superhero. For years, the Golden Guardian was truly forgotten. Robert Reynolds returned to a quiet, uneventful life. Marriage, parenthood, the passing of time, all with no recollection of the vast power he once commanded. But deep within him, something stirred. In middle age, bits of memory began to seep back, a silhouette of flying, a flash of golden light. As his recollection returned, so too did the Void. It burst forth again, more furious than before, and attacked a team of European heroes until they lay broken. In that crisis, Reynolds realized he had no choice but to restore his own history. He begged his old allies to remember who he was. Then, facing the Void again, he chose to erase his legend a second time, sacrificing his identity once more so that the world could be safe. Decades passed, By the 21st century, the Sentry was a whispered legend, a forgotten page in a larger history. But then one day, his memories flooded back again. With the void stirring, Robert could no longer hide. He re-emerged into the modern world as the Sentry, a titanic, golden warrior reborn. For a brief moment, he joined the new Avengers, but guilt and confusion gnawed at him. In a haze of prophetic dreams, he believed he had somehow killed Lindy. Consumed by shame, he voluntarily locked himself in the Raft, a maximum security prison for superhumans. Even behind bars, the Sentry's power was unmatched. When villains sprang a mass escape, he was forced to defend the innocent around him. In one clash, the Carnage symbiote leapt upon him. The battle was swift and brutal. The Carnage monster screamed and lashed out, but the Sentry remained unfazed. In a single visceral moment, Sentry tore Carnage clean in half, sending his legendary nemesis splintering into the sky. Witnesses shuddered at the raw fear in that act. Even the bloodthirsty Carnage could not withstand the Golden Guardian. Word of that display spread quickly. Heroes like Captain America and Iron Man hunted for answers. They cornered Reynolds shortly afterward, demanding to know why he abandoned the Raft and what had become of Lindy. Reynolds had few answers for them. He begged them to leave him in peace, but instead he fled. As he vanished into the city night, the Avengers knew two things for certain. First, that the Sentry was every bit as powerful as the legends said. And second, that within him there burned a darkness they barely understood. Over the next few years, Robert Reynolds struggled to control the storm inside him. He became a public avenger, a colossus of power on Tony Stark's new team. But every exhibition of his might came with heavy costs. In one mission, Mindbenders unleashed a barrage of alarms directly into his consciousness. One by one, all the alerts of innumerable catastrophes blared into the Sentry's mind at once. The overload was too much even for him. The hero that could uproot mountains and shatter planets froze in place, unable to cope. Tears welled in his eyes as all the alarms sounded simultaneously, and he collapsed to the ground, utterly incapacitated. That image, the most powerful Avenger broken by suffering, reminded the world that even gods have limits. By then, circumstances had become increasingly dire. Norman Osborn's rise to power forced Robert into an uneasy alliance with the Dark Avengers. Osborn, a calculating villain masquerading as hero, recognized the Sentry's unstable psyche. He treated Reynolds as a secret weapon. In the midst of a clash with terrorists from Atlantis, Osborn issued a chilling command: release the void and kill everything. Bound by twisted loyalty and his own mental fractures, Sentry obeyed. His eyes turned jet black, the mark of the void's presence, and he annihilated the attackers without hesitation. Fellow heroes watched in horror as the symbol of hope transformed into a weapon of terror. Other heroes desperately intervened. Emma Frost, the telepathic diamond, somehow pried the void out of Sentry's mind to save him from himself. The battle raged, and in the confusion a tiny fragment of the void leaped into Cyclops' consciousness. Realizing the only way to stop it, Cyclops tapped into the legacy of Jean Grey. He surrounded himself with pure willpower and discipline, effectively building a psychic prison inside his own mind. The void sliver had found its match. Cyclops managed to lock away the darkness in an unbreakable cell of thought. It was a stunning sacrifice, one of the X-Men holding the void at bay to protect the world. And it underscored how deeply Sentry's struggle had become entwined with other heroes' fates. The toll on the world was profound. The other Avengers and heroes began to whisper that he was the greatest threat they had ever faced. One of Sentry's closest allies, Ms. Marvel, even remarked privately that the Scarlet Witch's most catastrophic breakdown was negligible in comparison to what could happen if the Sentry fully lost control. In other words, The potential apocalypse inside one man was worse than any previous disaster they could recall. Robert's story took a tragic turn. During a global crisis in Colorado, he confronted the reality-altering molecule man and was blasted apart only to reform. He witnessed gruesome events. For example, Molecule Man was later killed in the crossfire of the Void's domain, and Sentry's own hands were stained with guilt. His wife, Lindy, recorded the darkest truths about him on video. She described Robert's past as a drug addict who, by accident, found the super serum and unwittingly erased his old life. She revealed how he blamed that dark part of himself on a boogeyman that was none other than the Void. In those confessions, she laid bare the duality at his core. Hero and villain, love and terror, all locked within one man. In the end, after years of fighting, Reynolds faced one final reckoning with the Void. In Antarctica, at a remote Void stronghold, his dark half taunted him. It admitted the serum he consumed was astronomically more potent than even the one that made Captain America. If their blood were collected, it could create an army of million supermen. Enraged by this treachery and concerned for all life, the Sentry made a crushing decision. With fury and sadness entwined, he drew the Void into himself and hurled it into the sun. For an instant, light won. The Void howled a promise that it would return, even as it was consumed by solar flames. In that moment, Robert thought the nightmare might be over. But the victory was not without cost. The battle scarred both sides of his soul. Legends say that the Sentry perished shortly thereafter, having never truly escaped the Void's shadow. The world believed its golden protector was gone, sacrificing himself to save everything. Yet, as old heroes fell and new ones rose, the power of the Sentry found new vessels. In the hidden archives of today's Marvel universe, a new figure emerged, Mallory Gibbs. Born in Colorado with cerebral palsy, Mallory grew up under the weight of a disability in an unforgiving world. Doctors and strangers saw only limitations, but she saw challenge. Mallory earned a master's degree, moved to New York, and pursued a career as a journalist against all odds. Her ordinary life shattered one evening, when an accident with strange energy ripped through her apartment. In an instant, her body was transformed. She became superhuman. Mallory Gibbs discovered she had absorbed a fraction of the Sentry's power. With that power came as much terror as potential. She was unprepared, raw, but driven by the same inner fire that once pushed Reynolds. Mallory's journey intertwined with other heroes. She crossed paths with Jessica Jones and Misty Knight, who recognized her spirit. In time, Mallory was trained to wield her new abilities. She took on the name Solarus, a beacon of light to replace the old Guardian. Initially, she held only a slice of the Sentry's cosmic energy, but she used it bravely. Eventually, in a confrontation against a dark version of the Sentry, she tapped into that legacy fully, absorbing the remainder of the Sentry's power into herself. The mantle of the Golden Guardian had passed into new hands. In Mallory, the story of trauma and hope found a new chapter. Where Robert Reynolds' trauma had nearly broken him, she aimed to transform it. Born with a physical challenge, she chose to see it as part of who she was, rather than a weakness. She linked her identity to her power, not as a curse, but as a calling. And unlike her predecessor, she did not erase her past. She embraced it, forging her identity as a beacon of strength. In taking up the name Solarus, Mallory Gibbs signaled that light could conquer darkness, that the cycle might break. The history of the Sentry and the Void is a study of contradictions. It is a story of limitless power and paralyzing fear, of a man's greatest gift turning out to be his gravest curse. Robert Reynolds' life was a series of dualities, brilliance and madness, heroism and horror, memory and oblivion. And yet, even in that tragic duality lies a kind of hope. For every ending in Robert's tale, there has been a new beginning, as when Mallory Gibbs rose from obscurity to carry the legacy forward. Their journeys underscore timeless themes: the cost of power, the scars of trauma, and the search for identity in a world that sees only extremes. This is the saga of the Sentry and the Void, a cosmic legend of a man both mighty and haunted, and of the light that can emerge even after the darkest night. It shows us that even gods are human, and even the fallen can inspire new heroes. In the end, the question isn't just who is the Sentry, but what he teaches us. That within every shadow there is light waiting to be born,